Did you know that diabetes is the leading cause for kidney failure? Also, here in the Bay Area, there's an average of a 9-year wait for someone needing a kidney organ donated. And also, when it comes to diabetes, whatever type you have, type 1 or type 2, either one of these can be managed, either through diet, exercise, medication, lifestyle modifications, a mix of any of those four. And so why diabetes is so important when it comes to organ transplants is that it can help make that process so much easier if you manage it correctly. I went into nutrition because I actually was pre-diabetic. I was around 19 or 20 years old when I had my annual checkup with the doctor, and they did the blood work, and then they told me, you have pre-diabetes, and that definitely lit a fire under my butt to want to change my lifestyle because it runs on both sides of my family, my mom and my dad, and I didn't want to go through what they went through. With my diabetes journey, it took me 2 years to get to a point where it became a lifestyle. Give yourself some forgiveness, and each step that you're making going in the right direction going forward is great. So my first tip would be, don't focus so much on weight, or don't put so much weight on your weight. I know that a lot of people like to prioritize that number and they put so much value in that number, but I like to think of it as a piece of a puzzle. There's so many things that incorporate your health that weight is just one piece of that puzzle. You can't fill that whole puzzle with that one piece. You have to think about so many other things that affect your health. So tip number 2, it goes into intuitive eating principles. And if you don't know what intuitive eating principles are, mainly the gist of it is focus on the question of how you're eating. And so when it comes to that, just answer that question for yourself. How are you eating the way you eat? So how fast or how slow are you eating? Are you eating with people? Are you eating alone? How many times are you chewing before you swallow? Because if you're eating really quickly, you're not going to know if you're full, and so you're not listening to your body. And it's a way for you to ground yourself, be in the present moment, and focus on what your body is telling you. Tip number 3 is kind of 3 parts, and the first would be to forgive yourself, especially during this holiday season. I know that people will focus on eating too much, like during Thanksgiving or Christmas, like I want to eat so little before this big meal so that when I am eating this meal, I won't feel so guilty. But I would say, don't do that. I feel like putting so much guilt on yourself, that affects your health. That affects your health because mentally you're not in the right state of mind when you have food in front of you. And psychology definitely plays a role in nutrition. Second would be to acknowledge the small victories. I know that some people who have restrictions on their diet, or they're supposed to avoid specific foods, they can get down on themselves. So it's good to celebrate those small victories that you have with certain meals. And the third part of tip 3 is focus on the foods that you can add, because I know that we focus on the foods that we cannot have. And I feel like if we focus on the food that we can add to our diet, it brings it back to focusing on the silver lining, because there's so much food in the world and there's so many things you can try. There's so much culture also when it comes to nutrition, and the world is your oyster. So I encourage you all to make these healthier lifestyle choices, and also to please register to become a donor, either through your DMV or through donornetworkwest.org.